right, so welcome back everybody to our latest episode of The Nest. While we will discuss the Patriots win against the Pittsburgh Steelers last Sunday, as well as preview the matchup against the Baltimore Ravens tomorrow, we are also going to start off by discussing the Boston Celtics, who have suspended head coach Ime Udoka for the season following the series of team violations. So we will start with that and discuss the impact of the suspension on the Celtics season, and then we'll talk about the Patriots. And joining me for today's episode, I'm very excited. We have Jeff Talon, Ravi Bajpai, Rohan Venkatesh, and Ujan Talukdar. How is everyone doing today?
Good as always, can't complain.
Busy week in Boston sports, so happy to report on it.
Doing well, thanks. Good to be back.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. It's going to be a fun time.
Definitely. So thank you guys for coming on. So let's just start with the Celtics. So obviously we know the big news by now. Ime Udoka, he's done for the 2022 to 2023 season following a season-long suspension. And Joe Mazzulla, he's an assistant coach. He's been basically moved up to the interim head coach position. So what is your takeaway on the Celtics season now? Do you still think that this team is a contender? Obviously, they made the finals last year, won 2 games against the Warriors, made some good offseason acquisitions, Malcolm Brogdon. So what is your takeaway? Do you think the season still has a chance with Mazzulla now leading the way?
It's got a chance, maybe not as good of a chance. I mean, I still think that they're a playoff team for next year. I mean, it's not that this is a bad team. They still got Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They still got that core, right? And this is a team that pushed the Warriors to a Game 6 in the finals last year before dropping the series. So I do credit a lot of that to Ime Udoka, though. Despite all the stuff that's happened recently, I do got to say that Ime Udoka has probably got to be the reason that the way he's been able to set that team and set the strategy for last year. I think that's probably what got the Celtics to the finals and pushed the Warriors to basically a Game 6 in the finals. That's not to say that the Celtics didn't do well in the past. I mean, under Brad Stevens, they made it to a bunch of conference finals. A few that they probably should have won, in my opinion. But I don't see that. I don't see them dropping off. I think they still got their core talent. And while I see them as a playoff team, do I see them as challenging for a title? I'd say probably not at this point, unless any of these people happen to surprise me. Which I got to give Ime Udoka credit for doing that because he did surprise me last year. So, I could be wrong. So in fact, I want to be wrong in this case, but that's just kind of my take on the Celtics right now.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue that. I think everyone would agree with our championship odds have definitely taken the hit with losing Ime Udoka. He was obviously instrumental in our success last season. And I agree with Rohan in that, we're definitely still a playoff team. The thing that matters the most is roster. We have a great roster, people with great chemistry, been playing together for a long time. We also probably made it better. I would argue we made it better this season through the acquisitions of Malcolm Brogdon and Gallinari, who will be back for or is expected to be back during the regular season. But losing Ime is definitely a loss. But I'm still optimistic. I think our championship odds are still pretty high relative to the other teams in the East. And we're, the coaches who are taking over have experience under Udoka, have experience in the system, and I'm hoping that they'll still be able to adapt and keep the ethos of the team that we had last year.
Yeah, I'm with Rohan and Ravi on this. While it is a big hit for the Celtics, it doesn't really impact them a lot. Probably not gonna make it to the finals, unfortunately. But I can see maybe like a second round, perhaps a conference final, depending on how well Mazzulla does. As was mentioned earlier, they still have JT, Jaylen Brown, Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench. I'm just not entirely sure about, while Malcolm Brogdon is a good player off the bench, I don't really know who else would necessarily be there. But after all, basketball is a team sport. And of course, the one question I have is, Joe Mazzulla, he's 34. I mean, it's almost like I wouldn't necessarily, I don't want to compare him to Steve Nash in terms of coaching, but in terms of head coaching experience, that's kind of what we're kind of getting towards, right? So, I think it'll definitely be, I don't think it'll be like a 2 seed Celtics season. It'll probably be like maybe like I would see perhaps like a 4 or 5. I think that'll just be bumps in the road to start the season, and that might cost us seeding later on.
Yeah, I'm with Ujan on that. I mean, I probably see that they'll probably be like a 5 or 6 seed. They'll make it to the playoffs. I don't see them having to play the qualifying round, the additional round that the NBA's added. But I do see that the difference now is probably that like last year, if they had to say play like a Philadelphia or a Milwaukee, I mean, they did beat Milwaukee last year, but I'd say if they had to play the Sixers this year, I'd say like with Ime Udoka, they probably win in a game 6 or game 7 situation. This year, I think they dropped that one. I think if you had to draw the margins, like where does it fall? What's the difference? I'd say that's probably where it is.
I don't.
That's not to say that they're not talented, but
yeah, I also
no,
don't agree.
I don't agree with that. I think you're really over. Oh, Ravi, did you want to say something?
No, you go first. You go first.
No, I think that both of you, like, I agree that Udoka was a very good coach. I mean, that's evident. That's how you made the finals last year in his first year. But at the same time, like, I think you're also overstating the impact of a coach in this league in general. A good coach, like I don't know, like look at some of the past teams, like Mike Budenholzer. He's not really viewed as a great coach, but Milwaukee won in 2021. 2020 was Frank Vogel. He's now no longer even the Lakers coach anymore. 2019 was Nick Nurse. And that was really with Kawhi Leonard leading the way, right? What have the Raptors done since Kawhi left? So we're looking at the past 3 like seasons. Obviously, the Warriors with Steve Kerr, that's more of an exception because Kerr, I think, is a very good coach. But Nurse,
that's not really fair either.
Tyronn Lue also, he was mostly considered a game manager.
Why does the coach get passed up for all the credit when the team succeeds? Yet
because
when
in
they
basketball,
fail,
it's
when they fail,
different.
the coach tends to take all the blame. Like it seems like a no-win situation for the coach.
Well, that's because in basketball, it's the superstar league, right? It's about which team has like the best assembling of stars. It's not like football where the coach really, really matters. Where in football, good coaching is like pretty much essential for a team to go far in the playoffs. Whereas in basketball, you can have a lot of these coaches who really aren't that good, but as long as the team around them is good enough, they'll get the job done, right?
And that's how LeBron has done it for the last like
exactly
years and years, is that he would, basically have his coach sort of take a backseat while he controls the game. And, can someone like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown step up and become like the true leader of a team with a new coach around? I mean, that's what really separates the greatest players of all time from just the superstars, right? So it'll be interesting. I think the Celtics are a super deep team. They can go down like almost 9 players of like solid quality players. And they're kind of young too. If you think of players like Robert Williams and Jason Tatum, and these guys can keep on improving. Definitely have plenty of time in their prime. So, who knows who makes the next step? I think you guys are a little bit pessimistic on this team that literally just made the finals last year.
I agree with you, Jeff, completely. Like, I think overall, like, and I also just want to say one other thing. Like, I don't think this team's a 5th or 6th seed based on road bumps. No. Just as a comparison, last year they were 18 and 21. Remember, RJ Barrett hit that shot on the banked it in.
Oh, I remember that
21. Yeah, that was the highlight of the season, right? But overall, though, like, I just want to say, like, they were 18 and 21. So that basically shows like halfway through the season at that point, almost halfway, they were below 500. They still finished as the 2nd seed in the East last year, even with a road bump of half the season where they were struggling. So, I mean, in this case, like, I obviously agree, Milwaukee with Chris Middleton back, they're definitely going to be a threat, and Philadelphia is a good team, but I still don't think that like losing Udoka, and they still have a month with Mazzulla, I think they can still be a 2 seed, 3 seed, probably even a 1 seed. They were only 2 games back of Miami last year for the 1 seed, despite basically being a mediocre team for half the season. So,
and the Celtics beat Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals 7
exactly.
games.
Yeah, they went into Miami game 7 to win, and they have to win game 6 in Milwaukee, down 3-2. So, like, overall, like, I'm not as worried about like the slow start. Like, I mean, if they start off like 2 and 4 or whatever, like, I'm actually not worried about that. But my bigger concern is like if Mazzulla really isn't the answer at all, and the team really is struggling, because then you're going to Jaylen Brown's final season next year in a contract year with another new head coach. Because I don't think Udoka is back after next season. I think he's done with the Celtics overall. Maybe he gets a chance somewhere else, probably will, but not with Boston. So you have another new head coach next year if Mazzulla isn't the answer. And that's really what's kind of more.
Yeah, if the Celtics don't bring back Udoka in the long run, that's probably going to end up being disastrous. I mean, he's the guy who brought us to the finals, and if they don't bring him back, that's
One thing I will say, like Udoka, that was his first season though. There are plenty of coaches across all sports that have a phenomenal first season, hit a sophomore slump, and never like just never recapture what they.
Well,
Yeah,
but how many
John Farrell
coaches
for the
reach
Red
I
Sox.
finals?
don't know
2013.
how great Udoka is
Different
like,
sport,
over
but
the course of the long haul. No,
Tom
I'm
Thibodeau
serious
for the New
though.
York Knicks. You know,
Wait,
I
who?
felt that pain of a sophomore slump.
Wait, which coach?
Tom Thibodeau,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
but
brought us to the fourth seed in its first year, and then I think we no, we didn't even scratch 11th. I'm pretty sure. So you know, you never know what a first year. I look for more track records. I'm talking about quality coaches like Steve Kerr or Popovich or whatever, people that are proven that they can bring their teams to playoffs and to compete at the highest level consistently over and
Exactly.
over again.
You don't become an elite coach from just one season. He had a phenomenal season, but he is not like, he's still not up there as a top coach yet. He has potential, but it's not like we're losing like a Popovich, like a Kerr, etc. That would be far more devastating. Like if the Warriors lost Kerr, they would be in a much more serious position than us
I
losing
mean,
Udoka. My
I don't
opinion.
really know about the Warriors and Kerr as much because remember the year they went 73-9, Steve Kerr actually missed the first half of that season due to like recovering from a surgery, and they still like were able to finish
That
73-9.
and that's what I was about to say. I mean, just the fact that Udoka, he had a pretty disastrous first half of the season, but the team really picked it up in the second half of the season. I would say that just shows me that he was able to learn from the first half and learn from the mistakes that he made, learn from the mistakes that the team made, and really build it up to a championship caliber team. I mean, I put a lot more stock into a coach that has a successful second half rather than one that has a successful first
He's
half.
just been a coach for one season though. Like he's not like he's not like a top tier coach yet.
Well, okay,
No, but my point is that he's shown the ability to learn on the job, and if he's been able to show that in his first year, I think that's promising for his second or third or even successive seasons down the line. Because
I agree with
as a
Rohan
coach,
here.
because as a coach, your job is to not necessarily play the game better, but to learn from the game and learn better tactics as you move along. And I think
Saying someone learns as the reason why they're very good is not like necessary. I would say that's a base that like that is such a fundamental thing to coaching, learning how to adapt. I feel like that should be expected of him.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, but you'd be surprised at how many coaches can't even do that. So
yeah, I mean, I think Udoka. So I will say this: I do think Udoka did show me a lot of potential that he could be a really like elite head coach. Like if he had actually been with the team for like 4 to 5 years, like I really do think like he would have really proved that he was like in the upper echelon of coaches. Like he did show me a lot the first season, like getting to that finals after years of Brad Stevens' teams kind of falling short. I mean, that to me was huge. Year one, and then winning 2 games like against the Warriors. But at the same time, like now that like I think Mazzulla is going to be really interesting to see how Mazzulla kind of takes over this team and what they do this year. If they go to the conference finals this year and lose to Milwaukee or Philadelphia, then all of a sudden you're kind of like the depth of this team, they still were able to do pretty well. But if they like, I mean, I don't know, what if they reach the finals again and this time they win it with Mazzulla as the interim head coach? Then all of a sudden, like Udoka's like what he did last year isn't going to be seen the same way anymore. So I think it's really going to depend on how this upcoming season goes. Because now we kind of know that the ceiling of this team is a championship contender. They are because they made the finals.
That kind of puts Brad Stevens in a tough spot too, right? Because he has to kind of toe the line, right? Like he has to, on one hand, say that like Ime Udoka, like he's done all this for us, but at the same time, he's to be like, like there's this ongoing case. So I would not want to be Brad Stevens in this case. But go on. Sorry, Amartya.
No. I mean, I think overall, like I still feel like I think Udoka has shown that he's a very good head coach, and now you're sort of starting over, and that's sort of what kind of concerns me, like Mazzulla's growing pains and everything that we're going to see this season. Like maybe early on, like in the season, it starts with Philadelphia and then Miami, I believe, the first 2 games. So I wouldn't be surprised if like those are kind of like tougher games with Mazzulla now leading the way instead of Udoka. But maybe like as Jeff mentioned, maybe Tatum and Brown really kind of take that leadership role to the next level now, including Marcus Smart, who always kind of has shown that before. So if those 3 kind of are able to sort of act as the coach on the court, then I feel a little better about their chances overall. But I still think that this is a contending team. Like I don't like if they lose to like Milwaukee or if they don't make it to the finals again, like I wouldn't really say it's because of Udoka unless Mazzulla is a complete flop as a coach. Oh, does anyone else want to say anything?
Yeah, I guess I guess the true test of whether someone is a flop as a coach is whether they're able to rally teams from deficits, right? If they're able to have a successful latter part of the season after having an unsuccessful first half of the season, that to me is like successful coaching. The opposite would be if they just kind of didn't really pick it up, start off struggling, or to me, the worst scenario would be like if they had a hot start and then they kind of just plummeted later on in the season. That to me would be the sign of internal chaos. Other than that, barring a situation like that, it's really hard to say whether a coach has really like tanked the team. But I mean, whether it's fair or not fair, the coach does seem to get the blame when the team doesn't do well. But that's kind of my thought on what the Celtics coaching situation is going to be for next year. I do think that based on the score of Tatum and Brown, and with Marcus Smart being that veteran player to hold that core down as a team, being part of that starting five, I think the prospects for this team are actually pretty good. Hey, like I'd want them to surprise me and go farther. Right now, though, I kind of see them as a first or second round exit in the playoffs kind of team. That's just my take, though. But yeah, that's where this team is going to be going forward, according to me.
Okay, yeah. So we'll have to see what happens as the season progresses. It will be kind of like, obviously, like in general, there are high hopes for the Celtics, but definitely some of it will have to be tempered a bit. But I still think that this is a good team. So we'll see. I think we'll have to find out in a month when the season begins how this team sort of starts off with Joe Mazzulla. But I do wish Mazzulla and the team the best of luck this season. Okay, so now let's move on to the Patriots. So obviously a 17-14 win over the Pittsburgh Steelers last Sunday at Acrisure Stadium. Going to take me some time to get used to that name instead of Heinz Field, but Acrisure Stadium, I mean, they looked good overall. I mean,
also getting used to a 17-14 scoreline where the Patriots win it. We do have a Giants fan on here, so
relish that score.
All right, but yeah, anyways, so yeah, let's talk about this game first. So what was one positive takeaway from the Steelers game? I guess Jeff, since you're not a Patriots fan, what was your perspective of this game?
I thought it was interesting. You know, the Steelers are definitely not a competing team, you know, not of the highest of quality when you have someone like Mitch Trubisky throwing from the backfield. But, you know, I think I was really impressed by the defense, honestly, of the Patriots, and especially their front seven of sort of keeping Najee Harris somewhat contained. Definitely got after the quarterback quite a bit, and they're going to really need to step it up if they want to try to contain Lamar Jackson next week. So that's what I took away. I think I have some high hopes for that.
Yeah, I definitely got to say that the defense has probably got to be the highlight of last week's game against the Steelers. I mean, just the fact that I mean they were able to get like a pick off of Trubisky pretty early on, if I remember correctly, in that game. I mean, the Patriots got off to a quick start. I mean, like they had to settle for a field goal pretty early on, but then afterwards they kind of just kept things going afterwards. The offense is kind of what struggled. I mean, that's kind of what I would I think is a little bit more of a concern in the longer term. Add to that the fact that they didn't really have that many drives that really went down the field for many yards. I mean, of course, one of the touchdowns that they got was off of
by the way, that's kind of going to the next point. You're talking about what you can see for improvement. That's the next point.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all holistic, right? So I'm going to get to like what I liked and what I didn't like. But I mean, like what I liked about the Patriots was that the defense was able to have a strong showing, and they were able to hold the Steelers offense and basically like limit Trubisky to basically not being able to do much, and including a few picks. And I got to be impressed with the defense. Offense, though, that's a different story. But I'll let you take it from there and carry it forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to probably echo that. I think the defense has been terrific to start the season. Against Miami, they only allowed 13 points, and we saw what Miami just did against Baltimore last Sunday, 42 points. against the Ravens defense. So the Patriots holding that defense to 13 points because 7 came on that fumble from Mac Jones. So 13 points against Miami and then 14 points against Pittsburgh. So I was happy with the defense overall, stacking Trubisky 3 times, the interception by Jalen Mills, and also the special teams played well, recovering the punt fumble by Gunnar Olszewski, former Patriots wide receiver / kick returner. So overall, I was pretty much happy with the defense and special teams this game. And this will probably be one of the tougher tests. Lamar Jackson, who's he has mixed results against the Patriots. 1-1 in his career. Actually lost in 2020 to the Cam Newton-led Patriots team, which is kind of funny because the year before he beat a 2019 Patriots team, which was actually undefeated at the time. So
That was a very wet game, if I remember right.
Yeah, it was a
rainy
game.
Torrential downpour.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that I'd add to positive takeaways is I think the offensive line did a great job. Obviously, we got a break with TJ Watt being out, but the Steelers have a great defense and can definitely get a ton of sacks even with TJ Watt out. But we held up well. You could see that Mac was much more comfortable in the pocket than he usually was, and I think that led to some better success in this game. And that was obviously a huge criticism that we had last year. So I was encouraged by that.
I would say you guys pretty much hit the nail on the head in the sense that we had we had very good defense. I actually particularly liked the way Mac Wilson played, tipping the pass for the interception by Jalen Mills in the first quarter. The offense, I thought it was better. It's clear, it's at least so far through the first 2 weeks, it's pretty clear that the Patriots would like to have like slow methodical drives and to get into the end zone, because on the touchdown drive, right, that was a 15-play drive. And even in the first drive that led to a field goal, it took like half the quarter, right? And I think the same goes with the touchdown that led to the Damian Harris run in the second half. So they're it's not like they're like a rapid offense. It's, we're going to play our game. And the fact that going to the defensive side, I think they're definitely going to be tougher tests with, Mitch Trubisky wasn't really at his best. We'll put it that way. He wasn't at his best when the fans were wanting Kenny Pickett on the field. So, you got to take what the Patriots can only win beat what's in front of them, and they completed the job at hand in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to also point out that Damian Harris touchdown, that was actually because of the Olszewski punt muff. So that actually had the ball at the Steelers 10-yard line. So there was only a 10-yard.
And I was about to mention that. I was about to mention that earlier on, that the offense, I mean, while it was able to get a couple of touchdowns, one of them came from really advantageous field position, and that was largely a result of the special teams that we had. That the Steelers weren't able to even catch a punt, right? That's much more a testament to our defense and our special teams than it probably is to our offense. Although that said, if the offense still blew it and didn't get a touchdown off of that drive, or had to settle for a field goal, or even worse, turned it over, got intercepted, I mean, I probably would have been blaming the offense all day. So I guess I got to give him credit for not blowing it, but I really would have liked to have seen more.
Okay, sounds good. Let's move on to the okay, and I guess what are some things that you saw from the Steelers game that still need improvement? So it seems like a lot of us are kind of talking about the offense, and I guess, yeah, I think Mac Jones overall 21 of 35 for 252 yards, touchdown and an interception. But that said, Nelson Aguilar had his best game as a Patriot, 6 catches, 110 yards, nice touchdown grab he had, contested catch, and Jacoby Myers 9 catches for 95 yards. So it was great to see both of them very involved. But I'd also like to see Kendrick Bourne more involved as well. He definitely is probably one of their most dynamic playmakers, but he has, so far, it's been kind of disappointing.
I will say that while I do agree that Kendrick Bourne needs to have more involvement, I would say the tight ends need to have more involvement too. Last year Hunter Henry was like your number one red zone target, and I can't even recall one time that Hunter Henry was targeted. Jonnu Smith had a couple of targets, but I don't believe he had a catch, or if he did have one catch, it wasn't for a lot of yards. So I would like to see the tight ends get involved. I understand that, this offense seems to be a run first and the tight ends will be asked to block, but I would like to see them as part of the passing game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it comes down to Mac Jones at the end of the day, right? Like, can your quarterback be able to stretch the fields, long drives, keep the defense, let them rest a little bit, and I don't know, can he stretch the field? I don't think we've really seen that. And we've seen glimpses, but nothing prolonged to where you feel super comfortable. So I think there's a lot of upside with the kid, right? He's still young, but I think you're looking for, especially against the defense in the Ravens that gave up a ton of long passing yards. We're gonna see if Mac Jones can really take the next step.
Okay. All right. If so that would just sort of conclude the portion of the Steelers recap. Does anyone else want to mention anything at all before we move on to the Ravens game tomorrow? Okay, we're on to Baltimore. Ujan's going to be there.
I guess on a Foxborough
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, true. On to
for the first
Foxborough.
time this year.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of late, right? Week 3 home opener.
Yeah,
So,
I'll take it though.
But yeah, anyways, so yeah, we're moving on to the Ravens. They are 1-1. They beat the Jets week 1, but blew a 35-14 lead to the Dolphins week 2 to lose 42-38. Just terrific game altogether. But Lamar Jackson was pretty good, 21 of 29, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, had 9 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown. Rashad Bateman, 4 catches for 108 yards and a touchdown. And then Mark Andrews, of course, the tight end, 9 catches, 104 yards and a touchdown. So Bateman and Andrews are his top targets, receiver essentially, and Lamar himself is a great rusher as a passer, so he can do it all. And they might have J.K. Dobbins back tomorrow, so it'll be tough. But I guess the next question is just like, since Lamar is basically capable of just making plays either with his arm or his legs, how do you see the Patriots defense kind of game planning against him, and which players on the Ravens offense should the Patriots be worried about the most tomorrow? So yeah, whoever wants to start.
I'd say, like, as usual, if you're up against a good quarterback like Lamar Jackson, closing off all the passing routes, that's got to be you got to put that at a premium. So that means, I mean, your corners are going to be playing a key role. But in addition to that, though, I mean, I would say that probably for the Ravens, their number one weapon in this in tomorrow's game is probably going to be the element of surprise, being able to run the ball as well as being able to pass the ball. So if they really want to mix it up and not have to rely as much on Lamar Jackson, I would have to say that on the run game, I would say J.K. Dobbins is probably going to be like the biggest threat that the Patriots would have to worry about. And for that, I would have to say that positioning yourself defensively to position to be able to mitigate against the run game as well as the passing game, in terms of placing as many players as he can, like close to the line of scrimmage to kind of like stop the run game, as well as having a few safeties deep to potentially stop the deep pass, as well as getting your corners in position. I would say it's probably a tough task, but against a team that has multiple weapons like this, I'd say that's got to give you your best chance at being able to stop this offense.
If I had to prioritize something, I'd probably focus on the run game. I think that's part of what makes Lamar so special. And I think if you can stop the run game, force him to pass, he has shown at times to be shaky at that. Obviously, overall, he's still a very good passer, but I'm more worried about the run game. And obviously, our run defense has really been up to the task. So I think that if we take that option away from him, force him to beat him on the pass, that is the more advantageous situation for us. Yeah. So that would be my game plan. And then on the other side, as Jeff alluded to, the Ravens pass defense has been very bad, so we really have to take advantage of that. And it's gonna be a lot of pressure on Mac Jones to do that, and all of our wide receivers.
I would say the first plan A has to be stop the run, which is already hard to do, because it depends on how the Patriots do with the read options. I think that's the key for me. Are we able to contain both the running back and Lamar Jackson if we depending on what Lamar decides to do. So and I think the way to go about this is have Mac Wilson be sort of like your spy on Lamar Jackson, because I think Mac Wilson is the fastest linebacker we have on the roster, and the Patriots traded for him for a reason, because he is definitely one of the more underrated linebackers, I will say. So I think that's one way to go about it. And I think remember the Patriots defense is a top 5 defense to start the season. So I think that I'm not too concerned about the defensive line so much. It's just I think having a spy will definitely go a long way in terms of stopping the run.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was going to suggest the spy option as well. And I'm also going to say, if Kyle Duggar can play tomorrow, he's questionable, but he's been probably one of the best open field tacklers on the team this season. How he's week 1 when he was able to tackle Tyreek Hill in the open. I think having him, if he's healthy, that would make a huge impact for the Patriots, especially in trying to monitor Lamar and seeing where he's going and trying to stop him before he gets big gains. Sorry. So I think overall, I would say the spy option. I agree with you, Jenna, 100%. I think that's going to be kind of the key to sort of monitor what you did. And then also, I guess, looking back at the 2020 film a little bit, I know there was rain at that time, so it was a really kind of wet day overall, but that said, you held the Ravens to 17 points that day. So there's probably something you can kind of look at and try to see if you can follow. Obviously, Mark Andrews was on the team. Bateman was not on the team at the time. So it's going to be a little different. But that said, I think kind of just studying what you did that day and kind of just trying to really pressure him to throw. But that said, I think he has become a lot better of a passer now than he was in 2020. So I would also be cautious of just sort of letting him throw it deep, because he looks a lot better now than he did in the past, including 2019 when he won MVP. So that said, I wouldn't really necessarily just want to shut down the run, because I think he can get really hot, especially if Bateman or Andrews, who's pretty much a security blanket, get open a lot. So I would be a little hesitant on just allowing him to throw and trying to beat you that way, because I think he is able to do that nowadays, unlike probably 2019 or 2020.
Yeah, for sure. This is Belichick's this is what he's paid to do, is to mix it up, to keep them guessing, creative ways to use their safeties in order to not only just cover, but move them down a bit and make sure that you put some pressure on the line. So you're right that Duggar is going to be interesting, because if he's available, he almost plays not just a safety, but he play in the box too, and provide a little extra backup, a little extra oomph to keep Lamar Jackson guessing, basically.
Yeah, Jeff, also just wanted to ask you about Jabril Peppers a little bit, because he was on the Giants last year. So do you think that Jabril Peppers could also have a valuable role on this team?
Oh, yeah.
Tomorrow?
And actually, I see a lot of similarities between Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar. They're not the standard safeties that are just there to make sure that you don't give up the 50-yard pass. They take more risks, which can hurt, but it can also throw people off. And Jabril Peppers was very good at basically disguising himself where he's going to be. You never know where he's going to be. And for somebody that's as creative as Lamar can get, you kind of want to fight fire with fire, I think. So he might be very useful.
I will say that to Marcus' point, it's one thing to allow the deep pass against any team, let's just talk about it overall, but it's another thing to just allow short passes for minimal gains. So as long as the Patriots take away the deep ball and make the open field tackles, I think they're going to be okay. As well as stopping the run. That's essentially the first that's plan A, right? So just cover underneath, or really cover deep actually, and allow the underneath and make the open field tackles. That's That's really what needs to happen here.
With Mark Andrews on my fantasy team, I'd be pretty happy to hear about that game plan.
Yeah, especially PPR, right? But anyways, okay, yeah. Our next question is it's more on the Ravens defensive side of things. So we already kind of talked about how Tua Tagovailoa last Sunday, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 469 yards, like record game altogether. And we saw pretty much like the Dolphins basically just scorch Baltimore secondary all day. But do you see Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick kind of having a similar type of game plan where they're really attacking the Baltimore secondary? Or do you see kind of like what we saw like last Sunday against Pittsburgh?
I don't see anyone on the Patriots receiving core that matches up anywhere close to a Tyreek Hill or a Jalen Waddle, right? Just speed, ability to run after catch, like they will burn you. And so it's tough, right? Like is Tua that much better than Mac Jones? I don't really think so. But those receivers give him so much space to work with that like you don't need to be an amazing passer to really make use of them. So do I think that there's going to be an improvement over the Steelers and their like really tough defense? I think it could be an improvement. Do I think it's enough to keep up with someone as talented as Lamar Jackson? That's a different question.
Yeah, I agree with you completely actually on this point, because like I think having Tyreek Hill, who had 11 catches for 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Waddle, who had 11 catches for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yes, I had both of them on my fantasy team, and yes, I started both of them. So thank you guys for last Sunday. That said, I mean, when you have 2 of the most dynamic playmakers in the NFL, of course you're going to go and throw it deep, because chances are you're going to have one of them at least be able to catch it and go for a big play. Like I think Kendrick Bourne or Aguilar is like your best deep threat, and neither is even close to Waddle or Hill. They're solid players, but I just don't think that the Patriots are going to want to challenge Mac Jones in this way and just have him throw it a lot deep. That's not really his game plan so far. It hasn't really worked out so far. Like that one interception he threw against Pittsburgh was kind of on like a deep pass. It was kind of double coverage, and it was an interception. So that sort of just shows kind of the limitation at this point. Maybe he'll get better over time, but like right now, I'd still say go with what's been working. The short passes to Bourne, Aguilar. I don't know if Myers is playing tomorrow, but if he does play, then he's going to be huge as well. And maybe this is a good opportunity, as Ujan mentioned, to get Hunter Henry and Janu Smith more involved as well. I mean, Hunter Henry last year, 9 touchdowns. He was terrific in the red zone. So if you can get him more involved, I think that's sort of your better like success rate at this point than throwing it deep.
Yeah, it's tricky because we know that the Ravens are vulnerable to these deep threats. They've showed that, but I think you've totally hit the nail on the head that we need to also think about our strengths. Like the Ravens might be vulnerable to this, but this is very clearly not our strength with Mac Jones and with the deep receivers that we have. So I would agree with the point on short passes. Ujan's point about getting the tight ends more involved is more, even though that's not, when you look at the film about what happened with the Dolphins, that's not how they managed to take advantage of the Ravens to the best of their ability. That's not how we should play it. And it would be a huge mistake if like they look at how the Dolphins managed to destroy the Ravens and then like, okay, let's just replicate it. That is absolutely not what we want or would work for us.
Okay. Moving on to the next prediction. Always the fun part, the score prediction. So who wants to start first?
I can go. So I gotta admit that I was wrong about last week. I predicted that the Patriots would lose to the Steelers, and they ended up winning. This week though, I gotta say that this Ravens team is a lot tougher. I think the Patriots are gonna put up a good showing. I think they're gonna be able to put up 20 points on the board. I just happen to think that the Ravens are going to put up 21. So 21-20 is my prediction, Ravens. I think the defense is going to do a decent job at stopping Lamar Jackson, but not good enough.
Interesting. Okay. I'll just go next. I have Ravens 28, Patriots 13. So I'm not feeling as optimistic. I'd love to be wrong, but I'm just feeling like the Patriots defense is going to have a tough time. But I think we'll see. I mean, hopefully I'm wrong, but I'm saying 28-13.
Yeah, I'm in a similar school of thought to Rohan. Not that far off too. I'm gonna say 24-21 Ravens. I think that the defense does do a good job, and I think we are able to capitalize on the Ravens' poor defensive showing. But at the end of the day, I think Lamar will eke it out over us. So 24-21.
I'm actually going to be at the game, so this is not looking. You all are not giving me very much. I don't know if I should sell my ticket or not based on what you all are telling me. But don't worry, I'm not going to sell my ticket. I will say the Ravens defense isn't as bad. Remember, even though Tua threw 6 touchdowns last week, he did throw 2 interceptions. So that does give, some hope that against, and now that the Ravens will be coming up against the Patriots with a top 5 defense, as I mentioned earlier, there will be chances for New England to force takeaways. So I do believe it will be a close game. And remember, the Ravens do have the most accurate kicker in NFL history. So I do believe that it will. It'll come down to likely who has the ball last. At the same time, Mac Jones, at least based on last season, he has done better at home compared to on the road. At least I would say that, even though the Patriots did have an under 500 record at home, which was odd. But I will actually go with the Ravens 27 and the Patriots 24.
All right. So that leaves Jeff.
That's pretty much identical to a scoreline that we had in the 07-08 season, except the Patriots won that one 27-24. I think it was a Monday nighter.
Yeah. Rohan, he's our sports score encyclopedia. We'll just remember game scores from the past. So this is the trivia and tidbit from this week presented by Rohan. And anyways, Jeff, last but not least, go ahead.
For sure. So there's some question marks still in the air, right? With Duggar and Myers, right? That we're not sure. Assuming one of them is not going to make it, and the Ravens, if they have J.K. Dobbins, which is looking like he's trending that way, I'm going with a bit of a lopsided score here. I think maybe something like 30-14 or something in favor of the Ravens. I just think that there's a clear difference in tier level of talent that's going to be on the field, and you can do what you can to contain Lamar Jackson, but at the end of the day, it's a quarterback driven league, and Lamar Jackson's one of the most talented that's out there. So that's the score I'm going for.
Interesting. All of us picked the Ravens. Okay, so we'll have to see. So either all of us look really good next weekend, or all of us have to hang our head in shame. So,
Well, if you think about it, it's a win-win situation. We all picked the Ravens to win, so we'll be happy next weekend because we picked the right team, or the Patriots to win, in which case we're happy.
oh yeah,
So,
true.
2-1.
That's true. Yeah. Then they play Green Bay. So
The Skip Bayless strategy of never picking the Cowboys.
yeah. Oh, and Jeff, just speaking of the Cowboys, since they are playing the Giants on Monday night, what are your quick thoughts on that?
Oh, it's gonna be a tough one. I'm not love the 2-0 that I'm seeing from my Giants, but those were some struggle games. So can they hold Cooper Rush to be a below average replacement quarterback? I'm actually looking like I like our defense so far. They've been doing a good job against not Baker Mayfield and Ryan Tannehill aren't the most talented that's out there, but they're starter level quarterbacks in my opinion. So it's going to be a duel between Danny Dimes Jones and Cooper Rush the ball. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a tight one. Praying for a 3-0 start would be phenomenal, but I think it's going to be very close.
Yeah, just looking at the schedule, because next week it's Chicago after that. So you have a real shot if you win on Monday night to start 4-0 until you play Green Bay and Baltimore. So that would be really big if you can.
That would be incredible. I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
felt this much happiness, this much perspective happiness in a long time. So
Perspective happiness. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, no, that's good. And our last question, just kind of a fun tidbit. There's a new sponsor for the Super Bowl halftime show. It's going to be Apple Music. So are you guys excited about the Apple Music halftime show? Apparently not featuring Taylor Swift, because she apparently will not be recording for that. So we don't know who the halftime artist is yet. But I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? Like, I think I'm trying to really get at, rather than Apple Music sort of like, I mean, rather than just, I'm just sort of really trying to get at more than just simply like a fun trivia though. Like, this is probably a bigger picture if Apple starts taking over Sunday Ticket next year and gets into the football market some more. Do you kind of like this more? Like, how do you guys feel about this current streaming situation?
Based on what they've done with baseball, I'd say no way. Apple entering into the sports realm, I would not be opposed to that. I mean, I'm not opposed to that as a concept. I mean, if they actually had a good crew and did a good job, but I was watching the Red Sox and Yankees last night on Apple, and the production was just atrocious. There's just no better way of putting it. Commentators talking about things not even related to the game. It's just like it seems like they just like want to get the rights to the game without actually caring about the game. Now, if this is just for baseball and they don't treat football that way, I guess that's potentially acceptable. But if this is an indication of how Apple is going to be entering the sports realm, I'd say no go. I'd say I would definitely not be in favor of it. In terms of the halftime show is primarily music based. Apple has had a different reputation in the musical sphere. But my speculation on this is that Apple is primarily entering this as a way to kind of advertise their music streaming service as a competitor to say like Amazon or Spotify or any of the other streaming music services out there. If that's the case, I see it as a tactical move. From the perspective of the average fan, though, the halftime show is going to be the halftime show. You just slap a different name on it. I don't really think it matters, but I'm just curious to hear your take on this.
Honestly, it'll be odd to hear like, the voiceover when it says, the National Football League welcomes you. And like, I'm always used to hearing the Pepsi Super Bowl 55, 56, whatever halftime show. And then it's just suddenly the Apple Music halftime show. Like it's gonna sound weird. I'll just put it that way. Like, I mean, I was used to hearing like, 10 years ago it was the Bridgestone halftime show. Now we got accustomed to Pepsi. Now it's just Apple Music. I think that's the only difference it's really gonna make, at least from a viewer's perspective.
At least it's not the Crypto.com Super Bowl halftime show. That'd be pretty bad after they bought the Staples Center.
And fun fact, this also happened when crypto was pretty much at a top. I don't think they could have timed it any worse, but that's just a side note. But anyway, go on.
Oh, in the history books, they're going to be citing the fact that they bought the Lakers stadium and then it crashed right after. But yeah, no, I agree with Ushan. Changing the name. I like what Pepsi did with it. I hope I hope the best for Apple Music. I personally use Spotify. That's not going to change, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from my end, I'll just say this quickly. I think it's a little bit more like
Spotify is not a sponsor, by the way.
But they could be. If you're listening, Spotify.
Potentially.
Yeah, definitely. But just like on my end, I think like overall, like the Amazon Prime broadcast, like I don't know if you guys have been tuning into the Thursday night football matches, but I think they're really good quality actually for Thursday night
I did tune into
football.
that's why I said that going to streaming services for sports, I don't think it's inherently a bad thing. Like, for example, I mean, even though I think Apple TV did a terrible job with baseball, I think Amazon did an excellent job with football.
That's because look at who they hired. They have Al
Statcast.
Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit, right? Like Al Michaels, like from NBC, is like one of the premier voices for football. So like Apple TV probably would, if they got into the space, and actually,
I mean, Apple TV has
Apple
TV has a lot of the MLB Network team. I mean, they got Heidi Watney as a sideline reporter. They got Hunter Pence in the booth. So I mean,
like I'm saying, like I mean, like right now, I don't think Apple TV is immediately going to broadcast football games. They're going to have Sunday Ticket likely, which is different. They're going to basically be broadcasting from CBS, NBC, Amazon Prime, basically all the networks that have the game. So they're not going to have their own broadcast team yet. So I don't think we have to worry about Apple TV going into the broadcasting booth for football yet. Maybe at some point, I wouldn't be surprised when the next TV deal happens though in 10 years, that like something like Amazon getting a Super Bowl. I have a feeling that's going to happen definitely in the next.
I think that's likely, but even in the case where Apple TV does get Sunday Ticket and still just carries feeds from like say like the CBS crew or like the NBC or Fox crew or whoever it may be, I still think at the end of the day it's still a bad deal for fans because it's just another money grab. And when you're taking things that are on broadcast TV and moving it over to streaming, yes, it's good from a revenue standpoint in the short term, from the rights and the broadcasting perspective. But I mean, you could hear my whole rant about why I think baseball is dying, and one of the main reasons I have for that is that the slow transition away from broadcast TV to cable and then to streaming, and then where it's just so hard for the average fan to watch it. Yes, it may be better for your bottom line initially, but I think I'm afraid of the long-term effects where if there are just enough people who just say, okay, fine, I can't watch the game, I'm going to tune out. I think that's going to be extremely bad for the game in the long run, and that's something I'd be very, very careful about if I'm in the market for acquiring rights to these games.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything to share? Jeff, do you have any thoughts on this?
Nothing besides what you guys have already echoed. I think it's it's interesting to see more money get flowed in from these huge companies that they're trying to buy up, put their finger in every single pie basically. But if they provide a good quality service, I don't see anything wrong with it.
Definitely. Yep. Okay. So that will conclude this week's episode. So obviously, big game tomorrow.
And by the way, congratulations to Albert Pujols, number 700. Congratulations to him.
Yes, probably we won't see another person reach 700 for a very long time.
And potentially in the next few days, it's going to be Aaron Judge. That hasn't happened yet. The Red Sox are playing the Yankees right now as we speak. Last I checked, that hasn't happened yet, but it's probably going to happen sometime in the near future. So whenever that does happen, congratulations to him. It pains me to say it, but it is what it is.
Come to the Red Sox in free agency. We've seen pictures of you wearing a Red Sox shirt, and they are out there.
No, he's coming to the Mets. Sorry.
Mets would just mean like he just like sort of just changes like stadium addresses, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's an easy commute.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's whoever pays him the most money this offseason, which will be interesting to sort of note. But anyways, yeah, that will conclude this episode. We'll be back again next weekend to basically recap the Ravens game and then preview the Green Bay Packers matchup. So that will be a big one as well. But until then, enjoy the game, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right. Peace.